Hi, I'm Lisa Hayden with Channel 6 Central Kentucky TV, community focus on Washington County. And we are happy today to have with us Coach Jimmy Reed. I guess I have to call you Coach Jimmy because everybody called you Coach Reed here for how many years?
Well, I was in education 27, and I coached for 24 of those years. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was, and so you coached right up here at Washington County High School.
I sure did. Coached football and boys track. I was athletic director also.
Yeah. So now, and Jimmy, of course, I'd been thinking, gosh, we need to have Jimmy on this program. He grew up here in Springfield, and your dad, Fanny Reed, was the co-owner of Reed's Grocery.
Correct.
He and
Tom Duncan.
Tom Duncan.
His brother.
Yeah. And so you went to school here at, was it Springfield High School then?
No, I originally went to Bardstown St. Joe Prep.
Right.
St. Joe Prep, went there for 3 years, and St. Joe Prep closed, and then I transferred back over here to Washington County when St. Joe closed.
So you graduated Washington County High School your senior year. And it was Washington County High School?
It was Washington County, yes.
And what year was that?
1969.
Okay. So, and you played football over at St. Joe Prep.
I did.
And then you played football over here at Washington County High School.
Well, unfortunately, what happened, by senior year, I got my knee hurt, had to have surgery on it. It was a freak accident when we were scrimmaging a game at Stanford, and so I ended up having to have surgery on it, so I was out for my senior year because of that knee injury.
Oh, mercy. But then you went on to UK.
I did. I was very fortunate. I had a real good career while I was playing high school football at St. Joe, and the guy that was at the University of Kentucky, his name was Charlie Bradshaw. He had been recruiting me since my sophomore year. Coach Bradshaw came to see me in the hospital, as a matter of fact, and had surgery in Louisville, and told me that I still had a scholarship at the University of Kentucky, which that's where I always wanted to go. Unfortunately, Coach Bradshaw got fired at the end of the football season in 1968, and a new guy came in named John Ray, who had been the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. So he was the new head coach at Kentucky, and at that particular time, you signed what they called a letter of an intent back in December, and then you signed your scholarship in February. Well, Coach Ray was still recruiting me, but he did not have to give me a scholarship. Just because Coach Bradshaw had offered it to me, Coach Ray was not obligated to give me that scholarship. So Coach Ray informed me that at this particular time, he was not going to offer me a scholarship. And I completely understood that. Eastern Kentucky University had a guy up there named Fred Francis, who was my freshman and sophomore coach at St. Joe Prep. Coach Francis left and went to Eastern, and Coach Francis offered me a scholarship, and I signed my letter of intent to go to Eastern. And that's not really where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Kentucky, but I wanted a scholarship also. So after my knee surgery, I went and did some rehabilitation on my own. I ran the steps up in the gymnasium in the mornings early, and then in the afternoons, and then I went out on the football field and did figure eights around the goalpost and rehabbed my knee. And then we had what we used to call the Mason-Dixon indoor track meet, which was in Louisville at the fairgrounds. And that was in late January. So my goal was to run the 60-yard dash in the Mason-Dixon games at the high school level in January. So I trained myself and really disciplined myself about getting in training, and went down and ran in the Mason-Dixon games and did really, really well. So anyway, Kentucky started recruiting me back. They liked the fact that I still had all this speed, even though I had had surgery. And Kentucky started recruiting me back. And they invited me up with my mom and dad. We went to watch Kentucky play a basketball game, and they were still recruiting me. And Coach Ray called me into his office and wanted to know some things about what was going on, want to know who else was recruiting me. And I told him that I'd already signed with Eastern, which he already knew that. And he said, well, who else is recruiting you in the SEC? And I said, well, Tennessee's recruiting me right now because they've learned about my speed in the Mason-Dixon games. So he said, well, I know you don't really want to go to Eastern because you want to play in the SEC. I said, that's correct, Coach. And he says, if you don't go to Eastern and we don't offer you a scholarship, where are you going to go? I said, Coach, I'm going to go to Tennessee, and I'm going to come home, and I'm going to beat you. And so we talked a little bit more about that. And so I left the office. About 30 minutes later, assistant coach comes out and says, Coach Ray wants to see you again. So I go back down the steps, go into Coach Ray's office, and Coach Ray says, I'm going to offer you a scholarship, Jimmy. I said, thank you, Coach. You won't be sorry. So I got my scholarship, and then I ended up playing. We had freshman football back then, and then I played varsity for 3 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, Jimmy, I was thinking that you were a quarterback.
I was a running back.
A running back. Okay, you didn't play quarterback over at St. Joe? It was
As a running back.
Okay. And that speed you had, so
Right.
you continued with that speed, and so you played all 4 years at UK.
I did. Played all 4 years.
Scholarship all the way through.
Scholarship all the way through. I did have another knee injury on the other knee, and I had it the spring of my junior year. I had surgery that summer. I got a real late start into summer practice because of rehabilitation, and then I ended up finishing my career up there at UK. So
Yeah, that's great. That makes you famous in Washington County,
well,
you know.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
it
you.
does. You know, I always heard about Jimmy Reed. Although I was down at St. Catherine Academy later, and then, of course, that's where you later married Pat.
Correct. Pat White.
White,
Uh-huh.
and you all had children. And
Correct.
let's see, your oldest,
JD.
JD,
JD's my son.
who also I think played football
He played football at UK.
at UK.
Then I had a daughter named Carrie.
Right, and Carrie. I haven't seen neither one of them for
No.
quite some time.
Carrie lives in Louisville, and JD lives up in Minneapolis.
I ran into JD, I guess, at a football game, a UK football game, about a year ago. Not this season, but last season. And so I don't know if he still goes to all the football games or not.
He hasn't been to a football game in UK for quite a while since he lives up in Minneapolis. So.
Yeah. Well, and then and as you know, we mentioned he played for UK football. Now I don't remember how long he played. Did he?
JD played for 3 years, and then he transferred. Excuse me. He transferred and went to Western, and stayed down there for the spring semester, and then he decided to give up football, and he transferred back to UK and graduated from UK.
Okay. So like father, like son.
Exactly.
That's
right.
I know you're very proud of that.
Yes.
And then now, so after that, though, you got your degree in teaching and coaching, and I guess you there's some degree in coaching.
Really wasn't a degree in coaching. I got a degree in business education.
Okay.
That way I was able to teach and knew some things about business. When I first went to UK, I decided to major in business administration. Thought I might get into teaching, so I changed majors from business administration into business education, and I got my teaching certificate. Didn't really know if I wanted to go into teaching and coaching, but since I'd always been involved in education and working with football, I thought there was a possibility. So I graduated in 73, in December of 72, excuse me, and then they had an opening up here in Washington County. A guy named Mike Terry became the head coach at Washington County after Perky Bryant was there, and Mike asked me to come coach with him, so I agreed to coach with him. And then there was a business position that came available, and so I ended up starting teaching business and coaching with Mike Terry. We did that for a year, and then Mike left, and another guy named Dan Hill came. and Dan was there for 3 years. Myself and Coach Glasscock were his assistants. I was an assistant with Dan except for 1 year. And then Dan left, and then the job came open, and Coach Glasscock and I talked about it, and I decided I was going to go after the job, and Mr. Wolf hired me. Mr. Wolf hired me as the head coach. Coach Glasscock was my assistant, and I stayed there for 21 more years as a head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think we won some district and regional tournaments and things during those times.
Probably the best year was we went to the semi-state and got beat by Fort Campbell, who went on and won the next game and won the state championship. That was as close as we ever got.
Yeah.
But that's
pretty good.
That's real good
for a small school
Correct.
like Washington County. So that's pretty impressive.
And we played in I think 4 regional championship games. Danville was one of our biggest competition, as was Bardstown was some of our biggest competitions, and but we had a lot of great kids to work with, and I had some great assistant coaches. So I don't like taking a lot of the credit, because it's not. You got to have players, you got to have assistant coaches to be able to have the success that we had.
Yeah, yeah. Well, who were some of the football players that you remember exceptionally well that were outstanding?
Well, we had some boys with the last name of Smith.
Yeah.
That were pretty good. That made us pretty good coaches. Jeff went on and played at the University of Kentucky, as did Larry. Went on and played at the University of Kentucky, and before that we had Doc Sims and Mike Harmon. Both of them went on and played at Georgetown. We had several kids that went on and played down at Western. David Hall, who just passed away, went and played down at Western. We had a couple of kids that have gone to Campbellsville and played. So we've had a lot of
really
good kids.
Yeah.
A lot of good kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember some of the Smith boys, and and playing for UK. So yeah, we and of course UK is our biggest school in the state, and our and with a lot of UK fans around here.
Exactly.
And so it's pretty cool that we have you and your son and several of these other young men that went on to play for UK. So yeah, and it just gives everyone here another excuse to go up to watch
Exactly.
football games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So and then of course you had your career and you retired from here from teaching and coaching, and so I just have to thank you, Jimmy, for all your years here and for all the great, for the not only your teaching, of course, but of course for our football here. Yeah.
Well, I had a lot of good people. I had Mr. Milton Graham was the superintendent at the time that I got hired, and then Mr. Jack Wolf was the superintendent, and Mr. Wolf was just God sent to help us in any way he could. Followed the athletics, very supportive of our athletic program here, and I've always been grateful to Mr. Wolf and the principals that we had. I think we had like 5 different principals and you got to have those administrators that really want to see athletics be a big part of the community and big part of the school. For those people have to help you get that support from the community. So
yeah.
I was very blessed to be here at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything in particular you remember, Jimmy, or that was a highlight of your time here, coaching and teaching?
Probably one of the biggest things was Bardstown was our biggest rivalry, and Bardstown, I think we beat Bardstown beat us. Washington County Springfield won a game in 1950 something against Bardstown. Washington County won their first game in 1972, I think, against Bardstown. And Bardstown was, when I was in coaching, I wanted to be like what Bardstown was. I wanted Washington County to be like Bardstown. And it got to where we could play and can beat Bardstown. And that was a big monumental task for me to be able to say I beat Garner Smart and Bardstown.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we went through several years where they thumped us pretty good, but then we beat them in 78 and 79, and as a matter of fact, Garner Smart, who was a good friend of mine, was the one that got me involved in the Kentucky High School Coaches Association. So I've always been thankful to him and his family. But trying to beat Bardstown, that was one of the big goals for me, was to be able to beat Bardstown.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, we always, and that was always difficult for me, being from Bardstown.
Correct. Exactly.
I just stayed on the sidelines during those games.
Exactly.
But yes, and mentioning Garnis, of course, then he got you involved in the Kentucky High School Coaches Association. And what does that involve?
Well, I'll tell you how I got involved. Garnis calls me up and said, Jimmy, I'm going to a coaches meeting on Saturday and I want you to ride down with me. And it was in Louisville. I said, okay, Coach, I'll ride down with you. So I went there, and there was probably, 30 coaches in this meeting, and Garnis had been the president of the Coach Association, and so they were taking nominations for third vice president, and Garnis raises his hand and said, I want to nominate Jimmy Reed for third vice president of the Kentucky High School Coaches Association. I said, well, what are you doing? He said, no, well, you need to do this. So anyway, I got elected because Garnis selected me, and we had a vote, and I got voted in, and so I served as third vice president, second vice president, and then president. At the time that I was doing this term, we started the Kentucky-Tennessee All-Star football game, and so the time that I was a president, the guy that was running the All-Star game decided to quit, and my board asked me to run the Kentucky-Tennessee All-Star football game and serve as president of the Coaches Association. I agreed to do it with the help of Mr. Wolf saying it was okay. Right after my presidency, the guy that was running the Kentucky High School Coaches Association decided to get out of education and go sell insurance, and my board asked me to be the executive director for the Kentucky High School Coaches Association. So in a period of 1 year, I was the game director for the Kentucky-Tennessee All-Star game and the executive director for the Kentucky High School Coaches Association. So, and still doing all my work at the high school. Our Kentucky High School Coaches Association, we have about 8,000 high school coaches in our state. We give out lots and lots of awards to coaches and kids, and we honor all sports and all coaches and all kids and all sports. We have a scholarship fund that we give away. We give away $10,000 worth of scholarships to our members' sons and or daughters who are thinking of going into education and into coaching. We have 2 all-star games that we put together. One is an East-West Junior All-Star basketball game. It's at Bellarmine University during the summer. And now we have the football game is called the Best of the Bluegrass All-Star football game. It went from the Kentucky-Tennessee game. We did that for 25 years, and then we went to an East-West game for 2 years where we divide the state up into the east part and the west part and played 2 games, 2 years. And then we got hooked up with a group in Louisville that's called the Greater Louisville Football Coach Association, and they take kids from Jefferson County and the surrounding counties and put a team together, and I picked the team from throughout the state. So we've just played our 8th game over at E-Town High School, and the Kentucky team won. So we've got that little series going now. So
that's fun.
And we just finished playing that on Sunday.
Okay. And then and their regular coaches
these games.
Okay.
So these are high school seniors. The coaches nominate, and then we have a selection committee. The coaches that are on the staff are high school coaches that we have. The coach that coached the game this year was from Caldwell County. Next year's coach will be from Owensboro Catholic, and then he picks his own staff, and we'll pick a coach that's going to follow the guy next year. So the guy that's going to be the coach in 2019 will understand how we nominate kids, select coaches, and kind of go through the process with us. So, so we picked 40 kids, which is pretty neat for these kids to be able to do that. So
all over the state.
All over the state. Yeah, from Paducah to Pikeville to and in between.
So you're very much involved with that.
Oh yes.
And I suppose you go to a lot of football games.
I do. I see a lot of football. if the weather's bad, I'm not going to go out anymore. But I do attend a lot of football games. Yes.
Yeah. Do you still attend the UK
I go
football
to.
games?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't go to any games this year, but because my mom moved in with me, and my wife, who's a nurse, Crystal, we're watching Mom, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving Crystal home with Mom by herself. And Crystal would have done a wonderful job and does a wonderful job. But we also got a new dog. And so it was like having 2 new kids in the house.
Yeah.
So I didn't go to any games this year. I stayed home on the weekends and helped Mom and Crystal and took care of the dog.
I didn't know that your mom had moved in with
Right.
you.
Mhm.
So now, when did this occur?
In July
Okay.
of this summer, she turned 95 July 1st.
Uh-huh. She turned 90? 95?
95.
I
95.
cannot believe that.
95, and she's lived by herself for almost 40 years, 30 years, and so back in late spring, in the early summer, she had a little incident with her stove, and it really scared her. And we've been talking to Mom about, we need to be thinking about where you want to go or where you think about going. And I said, you're going to be more welcome to live with me and Crystal, and you need to make that decision. Well, she had a hard time trying to make a decision, so I kind of back her in the corner and said, Mom, we're going to start visiting places over in Bardstown because it puts her closer to me since I live in Bardstown and my sister lives in Louisville, so we can watch after you. And so we had appointments lined up for 3 different facilities in Bardstown, all of them great facilities. Got everything lined up to go visit these 3 facilities one day, and we went to pick up Mom, and she says, I really don't want to go visit those facilities. I want to move in with you. So we were just tickled to death that she finally made the decision to live with Crystal and I. And so she's been living with us since July. And it's been absolutely wonderful, to have your
Wow.
mom there. Crystal's a retired nurse, and she loves waiting on Mom, and Crystal's a real caretaker. She gives her baths and she paints her nails, and they go out shopping, and it's been a lot of fun, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And she's been blessed with good health. So
And she had that bout with cancer years
yes,
ago.
yes,
And she overcame that, and she's an amazing woman. And then of course she has her sisters over there.
Yes.
She's still got Juanita.
Wasika.
Wasika. Your
Right.
mom's Juanita
Uh-huh.
and Wasika.
Uh-huh.
And does she have any other sisters over there
all
now?
the sisters have passed except for Wasika, and she has one brother named Arvy Mudd, and Arvy lives in Campbellsville, and that's the
Okay.
extent of her.
And I
brothers and
think
sisters.
Wasika gets out and
Wasika does get out.
get
yeah.
out quite
She does.
a bunch. So that makes it nice.
Yes.
They
uh-huh.
could get out together as
yes.
well.
They get together about twice a month. Her and Wasika get together, and they go out and eat lunch together.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Along with Crystal, and then my sister comes out. Wasika has one of her siblings usually comes, so it's a nice little family gathering,
Yeah.
eating in Bardstown.
So Crystal is retired. She's retired
retired
from nursing.
Retired from nursing a year ago in March.
Okay, and then you have a son. You all have a son.
We have a son, Lance, who lives in Lexington, and then Crystal has another son, my stepson now, that's still at home. He'll be 21 this month, and he's going to go to the police academy.
Oh,
Blake.
okay.
Blake,
Good.
his name is Blake.
Blake. And then in Lance, where is he?
Lance lives in Lexington and works for JMI, which is a sports marketing company out of Lexington.
Okay. So, well, gosh, he's all grown, and he's into sports.
Oh,
Did he
loves
play
it.
sports too?
Well, I always told Lance and I told Blake the same thing. If you're thinking about doing it and going and play college level, go ahead and do it. There's nothing, go try it. If you don't make it, so what? At least you tried it.
Yeah.
But he never pursued it. He went and spent time at Georgetown College during the summer working at their sports department. He's worked out of UK sports department. He's worked for another marketing company in Lexington, and now he's with JMI, which is a huge marketing company throughout the country, and really enjoys it. Blake is living at home. Went to ECC for a while and then decided he wanted to be a police officer. So he's waiting until he turns 21, which will be this month, and he's hoping to get into the police academy, hopefully in January, if not then in the summertime.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell him he can come over here at to the Springfield Police Department.
Yes, yes.
You know, I think several of the police departments are shorthanded
They are.
right now,
Mm-hmm.
and so we have 2 in the police academy right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
tell him he can come on over here.
He'll be a good one.
Yeah.
He'll be a good
So
police
that's
officer.
good.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad. And then you also still with the Kentucky High School Coaches Association.
Mm-hmm.
You also are working selling high school class rings with Balfour.
With the Balfour Company. The guy that used to service our school at Washington County, his name was Mike Casey. And Mike played basketball.
Well,
he played basketball at the University of Kentucky about the same time. He's a couple years older than me, but I got to know Mike because he was playing basketball and I was playing football, and I got to know Mike. And so at UK, and then Mike took over the territory for a guy named Buzz Frazier. And I don't remember when Mike took over the territory, but he would start servicing our school probably about the last 8 or 10 years that I was in the building. Mike was the guy that serviced our school with Balfour. And so about a year before I got ready to retire, my 26th year, Mike was saying to me, wanted to know if I was going to retire at 27. I told Mike, I said, I don't know if I am going to retire or not. I said, I'm still in good health. I really enjoy what I'm doing. I said, but I am looking at things that I might be able to do and want to do once I retire. And what I did was I watched the people that came in our buildings to see what they did. I wanted to stay in the school settings with another job. Didn't know what it was going to be, but I wanted to stay in that setting. And so Mike said, I'm going to need some help in about a year. Let's mean you talk. So got close to my 27th year getting ready to retire, and Mike said, have you thought more about it? I said, well, let's put some figures down. And so I ended up retiring and started working for Mike and servicing the schools that he was servicing and doing a lot of work for Mike. And our territory is basically between I-75 and I-65 and all the schools in there except for Jefferson County. And so we service about 35 schools. And there's about 60 schools in that territory. So we don't have all of them. And so I worked for Mike, and then Mike got really sick and had cancer, and another guy came in that was a friend of Mike's and bought Mike's territory. His name was Steve Cloyd, and so now I work with Balfour through Steve. Steve is the one that owns the territory, so I work for Steve Cloyd now.
Okay, okay. And are you doing that full time or?
It's a part-time job, but I probably work 30 hours a week, 20 to 30 hours a week.
And you're doing the Coaches Association.
Right.
Doesn't sound to me, Jimmy, like you've slowed down too much.
Well, I've been blessed to have 2 really, really good part-time jobs. The Coach Association is really, really busy at the beginning of the school year, getting everything lined up, and then from October to the last All-Star game that I have, it's really so in during the months of the fall, it's really, really busy. I'm not nearly as busy in the springtime and in winter. So.
And then you've got to go in the school and get these caps and gowns
Correct.
and school rings and things sold, and that has to be done at particular times.
Exactly.
I don't think it gives you any time to go to Florida or anything, Jim.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
And I have to ask you this: when you were in your younger years in school, did you work at the grocery at Reed's Grocery?
Started working at Reed's Grocery right down here on where the dollar, I guess it's a dollar store. I don't know what the store is now.
It's a consignment shop. Or like a something to that effect. Yeah.
Started working for my dad when I guess I was 13 years old, 12 or 13. I made 25 cents an hour, which back then was a lot of money, and I could go across to Saucony's restaurant and get a hot dog or a hamburger, some French fries, and a soft drink for 50 cents. So I felt pretty big, going over buying my own meal. So I worked for my dad in the grocery business all the way up until probably about 1984 or 5, when my Uncle Tommy bought my dad out, and then John Boyd and Tommy, his 2 children, were running the grocery store, and then I didn't work in the grocery store anymore after that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So I've always had 2 jobs going on at the same time.
Yeah. So when you were in school, and probably, like I said, grade school, I don't know what year the grocery moved up to its last location, but
Yep.
I know that was in the 70s.
Early 70s.
Yeah, early 70s. And so
maybe late 60s, to tell you the truth.
And so all those years you were in school, you were working there.
The grocery store.
I can see your father in that store now. And but anyway, I guess there are a lot of good memories growing up in Springfield, aren't there, Jimmy?
Well, you know what? I'm really blessed to be around a lot of good people growing up in Springfield. I'll never forget when I was having some success as playing Little League football. I was on the first Little League football team, and I was on a good team, and I had a lot of speed, and so I scored a lot of touchdowns. I'll never forget, I used to hang out at the gas station right over here where Dwight Wright used to run the gas station there, and I would stop down and see Dwight and Johnny, his brother. And I'll never forget, Dwight would see me after I played a junior high football game, and he would say, "Well, how many touchdowns did you score last time, Jimmy?" I said, "Well, I got 2." And he said, "I want to tell you something. Don't you ever let your success go to your head. Never let that happen to you." And I've always thought about Dwight Wright telling me that. Because my success wasn't because of what I did, but there's a lot of other people out there that had a lot to do with a lot of successes that I've had. And I've always learned that the people in the community in Springfield have always been really good to me and kept me grounded and didn't let the success that I had go to my head. And I've always been appreciative of all the people in Springfield. You know, Bob Nohaden was my first football coach. Forrest Grider was my first football coach. And Paul Walker. They were the 3 people that started Little League football in this town back in the early 60s. And I've always been thankful for them starting that program, and it's still going on today.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great. That's great to hear. And then, of course, Jimmy, you have been inducted into the Kentucky Athletic Hall of Fame as a coach.
Well, they have
player.
A combination. It's the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, which is our governing body. I run the Coaches Association, which is all the coaches in the state, and our governing body is the Kentucky High School Athletic Association. They're like our NCAA. We go by their rules. And so I've been inducted into the Kentucky High School Athletic Association. They induct coaches and players and guys like myself that kind of do jack of all trades and been involved in high school athletics all their life. So I got inducted into that. I guess it was in 2005 is when I got inducted into that. So quite an honor.
Yeah, congratulations to you on that. And you might have received some other honor just recently. No? Was there something?
Not that I'm aware of.
I was thinking that, so it might have been, have you received any other awards?
I got a Distinguished Service Award from a national group that's called the National High School Athletic Coaches Association. I received a Distinguished Service Award from that group.
When was that?
Oh, that's been probably about 4 years ago.
That might be what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
I give out a lot of awards. Some people probably think I'm getting some awards because I give out probably well over 200 awards a year to kids and coaches in our state.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. But no, I think it was that Distinguished
Service Award.
Which is really quite an honor.
It is,
and it's because of your service and to this organization and all of the good that you're doing in our community in our state.
Yes, I enjoy it. There was a guy at Danville High School. The guy's name was Tom Duffy. Tom and I played football together at UK. and we started competing against each other. And when he asked me to come speak at his banquet one night, and I went up and spoke to his banquet, and the community was, of course, they won state championships, and they gave out lots of awards to kids and to players, and I started thinking, there's a lot of football coaches in our state that don't get the recognition that they really deserve. So I started a group. It's called the Kentucky Football Coaches Association, which was started in 1991. And I run that group also, which is just strictly football coaches. So instead of the big group giving out awards to all coaches, we have a Kentucky Football Coaches Association, and we give out awards just for football players in our state and football coaches in our state. And we give out all those awards at the state championship games, and we name a Class A Player of the Year, a Class A Coach of the Year, all the way through all 6 classes. And then we give out each district, there's a Player of the Year and a Coach of the Year. And there are 64 districts in the state. And so we give out lots of awards for football players and coaches in our state through the Kentucky Football Coaches Association, which is another little group that I run.
Well, that's great. That is really,
Yeah.
So, well, that was really good of you, Jimmy, to get that started.
Yes, indeed. I'm real proud of that group.
Yes, I bet you are. So you're running that as well.
As well.
Well, gosh, I just want to thank you for all of the good things that you've done in your career and in your and in your time here as well as at Washington County. And I know that we hold you in high regard here as one of our not only coaches and players and all the good things that you've done. So thank you for being here today, and be sure and tell your mother I'm wishing her well.
Thank you.
And she'll have to watch our program on Channel 6. I know you get that in Bardstown as well. So, yeah. And so, well, good luck to you in your future endeavors. I hope you get a little time to relax.
I will, starting this week. I'm slowing down a little bit.
Okay.
Lisa, thank you very much.
Thank you.